if it isn't my old friend, you. Thank you for tuning in to 15 Minutes with Fuzz. My name is Fuzz Martin, and this show is all about positive things going on in and around Washington County, Wisconsin. It's been a few weeks since my last episode, completely due to my schedule, but I've got a bunch of new shows ready to go, so buckle up, Buttercup. CHD, or Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week, takes place every year from February 7th through February 14th. It's easy to remember the date because it all wraps up on Valentine's Day, which is known for, that's right, hearts. And the fact that today's episode is happening during CHD week is honestly a complete coincidence, but it all works out great. Melissa and Matt Theisen from the Morgan Matthew Foundation join me today to tell you and me about their son, Morgan Matthew, the tragedy that they went through as parents, and the good that they are providing to other families through their loss. I will admit, you might get a little misty-eyed during the show. I got goosebumps a few times during the recording session, and I think you're really going to enjoy this episode a lot. So with that, here are Melissa and Matt Theisen of the Morgan Matthew Foundation, right here on 15 Minutes with Fuzz. Melissa and Matt, thank you for coming in and joining me today. Let's start. Can you introduce our listeners to Morgan Matthew and who he was?
Sure. So Morgan was our son. He was born June 26, 2021, and he was born with several of his systems hadn't developed properly. So even before he was born to the end of his life, he lived at Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, where they took phenomenal care of him. He had his own family there, and he taught us, as I'm sure many parents can say about their children, he taught us so much more about life and love than we could have ever anticipated, and we continue to live our lives through him.
That's great. And I came into this asking, I gave you a set of questions that I was going to ask and said, talk about whatever you're comfortable with. And you had responded to me and said that this is a story that you like to share or that you're comfortable sharing. So could you tell us a bit about what that disease was or whatever or however you put it, what that was?
Sure. Yeah. And I guess I'll just preface this with, I tend to take the lead on the talking. So my husband here, Matt, is sitting next to me. You just hit me in the arm if you want to take it away.
All you.
So Morgan was born with something called VACTERL association. We found out at his 20-week anatomy scan that he had quite a few complications, and VACTERL in and of itself is a really kind of complicated diagnosis. Each letter in VACTERL stands for a different system in the body, and if a baby has an anomaly within 3 of those systems, then they're diagnosed with VACTERL.
Okay.
No known genetic cause. Morgan's unique sort of VACTERL cocktail was V. He had hemivertebrae, so his spine hadn't developed properly. He had the C, which is cardiac. He had a large VSD in his heart. And he had E, the esophagus, esophageal atresia, which just meant his esophagus didn't connect to his stomach. All very complicated on their own, extremely complicated when you put those 3 things together. So immediately our prenatal care was transferred to Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, and they prepared us for a really complex, complicated beginning to life, but we were really hopeful that after several months in the NICU and surgeries, Morgan would be able to thrive. And immediately when he was born, we quickly realized that he was much more complicated than we all had anticipated. So even with the most brilliant people, we loved our care team. They took such incredible care of him and of us as a family, as a whole unit. Yeah, even with their immense talent, Morgan passed away. He was 82 days old. And on September 15th, 2021, due to complications associated with his congenital heart defect.
Okay. So is VACTERL, so it's not always fatal, is that right? Are there some children that are able to pull through? Is that?
Correct. I think the statistic is 1 in 24,000 babies are born with it.
Okay.
So it's 7 letters, VACTERL. And there are so many different variations of it based off those 7 systems.
Sure.
So each case is so vastly unique, which is one of the, I guess, statistics all of a sudden are thrown out the window because every case is so different. At least that's how I felt. But Morgan specifically, we were very hopeful and optimistic that it was treatable. And would his life look a little different than we expected? Absolutely. But we were ready for all of those challenges.
Sure. So he spent those 82 days at Children's. Did you guys spend your whole time there as well? Were you there pretty much all the time?
Yeah, we were. She was much better than I was. She was there every single day. I think I missed one day out of those 82 days. She was better about spending nights there, but we made it a point every day to spend as much time as we could. I'm a school teacher, so I went back to work in September and I was doing summer school, but I would make it a point every day after summer school. You just got in a routine of you're going down to the hospital, you'd spend your afternoons there, your evenings there. Weekends, we'd get up early. We were there every day, so we didn't live there, but we were pretty darn close living there.
Sure.
And I don't know if Matt's not giving himself enough credit. The staff, our nurses and doctors were so important in those reminders of you need to go home and rest to bring your best self forward the next day. Of course, there were some nights where I just couldn't leave. But, you hear this a lot about Children's Hospital, how amazing every professional there is, the nurses, the therapists, the surgeons, doctors. And they are so talented, but they are also so compassionate and they are real people. And when we left the NICU or the cardiac ICU, we knew they were taking care of Morgan in the best way possible. We never doubted that. And they also did great things like watch Bucks games with him, like made sure they were on in the room and play the new Taylor Swift album for him. I mean, it was they were absolutely his family. So leaving him, it was never as difficult as maybe it sounds.
Sure. Yeah. We could leave every night. And if we, hey, let's just check in on Morgan quick. We had the number, we called the nurse gave us the update. So yeah, we were always there. We always had an in. We always knew what was going on in that room.
I think I saw one of your Instagram posts that he got to watch the Bucks playoffs game and stuff like that. Yeah,
that was hands down the best night in the NICU. Yeah. I'm not saying he was the good luck charm, but I'm not saying it. It might have been a little Morgan magic there. But yeah, there's a little bit of an energy that night in the NICU. Everybody had the TVs on in their rooms and it felt like home.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So after he left this earth, how did as you as parents, how did you cope with losing a child like that?
Sure. We were actually talking about that on the way here. Like, how do we answer that question?
It's every day. I mean, he's on your mind every single day. I feel like we have been surrounded by like the best family, the best friends, the best coworkers, the best community. Beyond blessed to go through this, to have people at every corner. Somebody was always there to have your back. People are always checking in with us. Not to say we struggle. You still struggle every day, right?
Yeah.
When those people aren't around, but knowing the support that was behind us and having each other, obviously, we're so lucky. And Morgan's still here with us. We, like everything we do, either we're doing it for him or we know that he's there with us. So that makes it so much easier knowing that his legacy is living on. So it makes waking up every day and going to work and doing all these things worth it because we're still his parents.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've got goosebumps.
I know.
So.
Matt and I, this is just so top of mind. We were talking about it on the way here. One of the first days in the NICU before Morgan's health really took a turn for the worse, a turn that we had unexpected. Matt had said to me, like, we have to do something to like stay involved with Children's Hospital after we're home and after Morgan's grown up. That was kind of the thought process. So even before it got really critical and scary, we knew we would forever be connected to Children's Hospital. And after he passed, very quickly, we put together this idea of the Morgan Matthew Foundation. And there's so many reasons behind it, but all sort of deeply rooted in this ability or this way we can continue to be Morgan's parents. So we are Morgan's parents. Of course, we know that and we feel that, but we still have this like innate desire to parent him, to use our hands to be his mom and dad. So other parents, that looks like driving their kids to school and going to basketball games. For us, we needed a way to do that. So that was creating the foundation, which also kept us closely connected with his care team at Children's, who we've grown to love and adore. And it makes him feel present in a way I could have never expected or anticipated. In so many ways, this sounds kind of, I don't know, crude or morbid, but we sometimes forget that he died because he just is such an active part of our day-to-day life. And it feels really good.
That's great.
And I think, I don't know, we lived through the worst situation, right? Losing a child. And we realized that we aren't the only ones that have lost somebody that we loved, a child or a parent or whatever. And just seeing how fortunate we are. We know, right? We saw it in the hospital. We saw it in the in the ICU and the NICU, that there's families out there that aren't as fortunate as we are, that we just wish that everybody who went through a situation like ours could feel the love that we feel.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I mean, in the taking a situation that you can't control and using that to help yourselves and also to help others who may be going through something similar or even the same thing. It's amazing. With the Morgan Matthew Foundation, what is the mission of the foundation itself?
So our mission is to raise critical funds to enhance the treatment, care, and research for infants with complex medical conditions, with an ultimate goal of improving outcomes for infants like Morgan. There was a lot of thought that went into that mission. We knew we really wanted to obviously support families like ours and babies like Morgan, but also so deeply the care teams that take care of them. There's a very vivid memory in my mind. It was after a really devastating night with Morgan. He had coded. He was on life support that morning. It was really sort of the beginning of us preparing to say goodbye to him. And we found out that night that he had coded, several other children on the floor were having really devastating nights. And there was several families that day that were feeling the same way we were. And not only that, his team was exhausted. The nurses were tired. The doctors were tired. The surgeons were tired. All of a sudden, we feel like humanity of it all. These are just humans trying to save the tiniest, sickest humans. And the foundation is so deeply rooted in being able to support them. Because in that moment, I thought, if Dr. A decides he can't do this anymore because he's missing time with his own children and it's too stressful, I could not shame him for that. Like, this is an incredibly difficult job, and saving Morgan's life was so important to us, but the lives of all of those other incredibly sick children are also wildly important. And how do you save them all is the question. And for us, it's to support the extremely compassionate, brave individuals that choose that as their profession and live it day in and day out. And any way we can support them to do the research they want to do or create the care initiatives that they want to do to improve outcomes, yeah, we're there. We're all in.
I had cheated and listened to an episode of Tara Gundrum's podcast that you guys were on, and I'll link to that in the show notes of this episode, where you were talking about one of the doctors who had come in. He was like in his golf clothes trying to help save Morgan, right?
Yeah. Matt tells that story really great.
He was born, it was like 6:30 in the morning, and it just the nurse that said that, oh man, I wish I was going to be here for Morgan being born, and then it's
she
not
had
going to
been
happen
with me for the full 20 hours
and
before
all of a sudden,
that. Yeah.
Morgan all of a sudden came out of nowhere. He was born, and first time, experiencing a birth, and cut the cord and all the good stuff, and they bring him over to the table. They call Dad over there. I'm watching him, and then it didn't feel right, and then he just asked me to go stand off to the side, and that's when I saw that they started compression. So I knew that he wasn't breathing, and then you could hear the beeps, and the beeps would fade, and all of a sudden didn't really hear anything, and then people were in and out of that room like crazy. So then they called me over by Melissa, and they came over, and she apologized and said, we have tried everything that we could to save your baby. And I just remember looking down, losing it. He's no longer with us. And this guy came in. I think his name was Dr. Nick Meyer for some reason, I want to say, it looked like he just got off the 18th hole.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in, and I just remember them doing CPR, and the beeping came back.
Mm.
And that doctor that was standing bedside kind of ran back over there. And next thing you know, I'm running down to the NICU with them, and Morgan's breathing, and they have him in this, little transportation crib, and, life is good again. So, and we always said, like, we never had the chance to thank that doctor.
Yeah.
But I swear his name was Dr. Nick Myers. All I remember. And he was wearing a golf polo and shorts, and he was in there not operating on Morgan, but working on Morgan.
Yeah.
And he's the one that brought him back to life.
Oh, that's amazing. And all this was going on during COVID too, right? This was so imagining the stress of, as you were saying, of the doctors and nurses and all the support team.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and of course you guys, but I'm just.
It was a wild time. There was I remember exactly. There was a huge surge in the Delta variant. So everything got a little crazy right then. And it's sometimes I think we firmly have no regrets. We know we did everything we could for Morgan. His care team did. We tried to infuse so much joy into that room every single day. And we know we did that to the best of our ability. But sometimes I'll, find myself thinking, I wish I would have pushed the envelope more in terms of getting him more visitors. I wish I would have done that, gotten him more time with his grandparents. But it was so scary to do that at that time.
I remember every little tickle that you felt in your throat.
Yeah.
Like, do you test? Like, obviously Morgan's health is number one priority. And we actually got in arguments, right? Because do you test, or is it just is it in our head? Like,
Matt was a little more relaxed than I was.
So, and we could only have Morgan's grandmas were the only ones that were allowed for his time nobody was allowed in the NICU, but in the cardiac ICU. We had 2 visitors for those weeks. Then on his last day, when they knew that we were going to say goodbye the day before, they let us bring in, it was awesome. They let us bring in our whole family, whoever wanted to come 4 at a time to, meet him, hang out with him a little bit, read him a book, and say goodbye to him. So in that sense, they were amazing.
Yeah. With the Morgan Matthew Foundation, do you guys only support Children's Hospital? Are there other things, or is it mostly just to Children's?
Yes. So all the funds we raise go directly to Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. They then live in a fund there named after Morgan, and care teams in either the NICU or the cardiac ICU, both that took care of Morgan during his life, can write grant requests for projects and research initiatives that they'd like to move forward with. And then our board of directors approves those requests.
To raise those funds, you have a couple of events coming up. So can you tell me, first, there's one happening at Chick-fil-A, right, in Menominee Falls?
Absolutely. Chick-fil-A in Menominee Falls. Brandon and April Duke, they own it.
Okay.
They reached out to us and asked if we'd be interested in having them host a spirit night there where 20% of the proceeds will be donated back to the Morgan Matthew Foundation. So we have that planned for April 11th. We're planning on 4 to 8 p.m. And if you are there to grab some dinner, if you mention the Morgan Matthew Foundation, part of your order will go back to the foundation. We're planning on having a merchandise sale there set up at the Chick-fil-A restaurant, a silent auction, and hopefully a photo booth.
Okay, great. Did you guys know them beforehand, or how did they find you? So
the Duke family, I'm a teacher at Slinger Elementary.
Okay.
And the Duke family, all 3 of their children attend Slinger Elementary. And you talk about a wonderful family. They do so much for, I know, not only the Slinger community, but just the county in general. They're always looking for ways to give back. And we just happen to be very lucky to know them, and they wanted to help out, which is awesome.
That's great. So again, that is on Thursday, April 11th from 4 till 8 p.m. Is that correct?
I think it's a Tuesday. That was a typo on my end. Tuesday, April 11th.
I'm sorry.
Tuesday.
All right.
Well, yep.
That was me.
That is Tuesday, April 11th from 4 till 8 p.m. at Chick-fil-A in Menominee Falls. And you have to mention the Morgan Matthew Foundation in order to have them donate a certain percentage to the foundation.
Yep. And I believe that'll be drive-through and in restaurant. But we're going to have board members, family members working that night. They'll see the Morgan Matthew Foundation there.
And then Saturday, June 10th, you guys have your second annual golf outing?
Yeah, so we have our second annual golf outing on Saturday, June 10th. It will be at Ironwood Golf Course in Sussex. Last year was our first year, obviously. We hosted it at Wanakee Golf Course in Menominee Falls. It was a phenomenal day. While it's not surprising at all, we continue to be shocked by the incredible ways our whole support system and community, people we know dearly and people we've never met before, coming together to support something that means so much to us. So last year we raised over $60,000 at the golf outing, which we donated to Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, of course. And this year we're hoping to beat it. I don't know if we've set an actual goal yet, but I feel like 75,000 feels good.
Feels doable.
Yeah. And we really try to strike a balance between incorporating our mission and Morgan into so many moments throughout the day and just having an absolute blast.
Sounds like there's a doctor you guys should invite to that. So again, that is Saturday, June 10th at Ironwood Golf Course in Sussex. How can people sign up for that? Is that available yet?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
Registration will be open online. Mid-February is the goal, but maybe give us till the end of February.
Sure.
It will be at morganmatthewfoundation.org, where you can sign up and register for either a sponsorship or a golf team or both.
And you guys also you're active on social media as well, right?
Yes. Instagram is our jam. It's where most of where we share is.
Instagram is Melissa's jam. I don't take any credit for the post or the wonderful wording of the post or any detail that goes into that.
Good work, Melissa.
Thank you. Yeah. Instagram is at morgan.matthew.fdn. And then we have a Facebook page that I recently got up and running, and LinkedIn, but that one needs a little work yet. So no judgment there.
No judgment at all. Well, great work doing what you're doing and taking this situation and turning it into a positive for other families who may be going through something similar. As devastating as it is, the fact that you're able to take that grief and pain and that memory and turn it into something that can help others, I think is wonderful. So appreciate you guys coming on. Thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you again to Melissa and Matt Theisen of the Morgan Matthew Foundation for joining me today as we kick off CHD Week. Again, you can find out more information on their organization at morganmatthewfoundation.org. That is also where you will eventually be able to sign up for their annual golf outing and support their charity, which supports Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. Again, I have more episodes in the works, so you won't have to wait as long between episodes. If you're just finding the show and want to listen to more, you can catch up on the back catalog through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and really anywhere you want to listen. And be sure to click the follow button in those apps to hear new episodes as they come out. You can also visit my website at 15withfuzz.com. That is 15 spelled out with fuzz.com. And as always, I appreciate you listening, and I will talk to you next Tuesday right here on 15 Minutes with Fuzz.